I mean, I like it when they prattle on about their system and maybe wearing the same unwashed underwear for luck.
Your system was to pick a losing horse 9 times in a row? Well, yeah, because she came in second on the 10th time. Boom. Actually, the granite in the U.S. Capitol building is also radioactive, enough to fail power plant safety standards. This is why once Congress votes and a bill passes, the speaker says, this motion is granted.
I just got back from Jeff's.
You mean Woody Allen, dude? I'll bet Woody Allen, dude, is a whirlwind between the sheets.
Woody Allen dude makes a very comfortable living. He runs his own accounting firm.
Notice there was no argument about the sex there.
Whatever, but random luck passes over me every time.
Christ, I'm ready to call my boss and quit if I win a second Big Mac at McDonald's. I'm out, bitches. He starched his shirt so heavily, it was like wearing a paper envelope with sleeves by the time he was done with it. People get really touchy about this science stuff. I got yelled at when I was hanging out in the server room at work the other day. I mean, where else am I supposed to store my electromagnets?
Oh my God.
This is the Snaggletooth Rock and Roll Podcast.
Episode 34.
So we're back after a soft week. The doctor that I work for was away this week, so pretty much I have to pick up the phone all day and say he's not here.
And we took a road trip.
Yeah.
In which Stace lost her mind driving.
I had to kill some time while Mark was busy doing a job interview. So I found the lovely town of Scranton and pretty much hung out around the courthouse there. There wasn't a whole lot to do. Found a little place to get something to eat, although it was very weird at this place. The counter was busy. I could hear them with grill, and it also seemed like they were behind a deli counter. There was no menu. There was no board behind them. There was no chalkboard. I had to ask somebody. I'm like, "Do they have a menu?" And he pointed to a small pamphlet. So
old school.
Yeah, it was very weird.
But then when she was coming back to get me, her phone completely stopped hooking up with the satellites.
When I was eating, I was, just trying to waste time online while I was eating, and I shut off my Wi-Fi because it grabs onto this Xfinity Wi-Fi that doesn't work at all. So coming back, I was trying to pick him up, and it literally felt like it kept saying I was 8 minutes out, and then it would say recalculating 11 minutes out.
Well, also you were on avoid highways, and there's no avoiding highways.
Well, I did. Never got on a highway, but it was like taking me up a street that was so steep, I thought the car wasn't going to make it to the top. It was. Then I thought, how do these people do this in the winter? Every turn I made, it said recalculating. I felt like I was in some weird Twilight Zone episode. I was never going to get to him. And then he called me, and in trying to pick up the call, drive, see where I was going, I turned off the GPS and I had to pull over to restart it again.
People are honking. Yeah.
God, like, haven't you ever been lost? Luckily, it's not super busy on the road up there. I would have been in a lot more trouble. I think I had a mini panic attack because I really felt like I was in one of those dreams where you just can't get to where you're going and it keeps resetting and getting worse. That's what it felt like.
This week's sponsor is Indifferent Condiment Soda. I just wish the honey mustard would apply itself.
Nonchalance. Yeah, we've got super into condiments recently, from garlic aioli to
jalapeno sauce.
Sauce. There's
It's all about the sauce.
Stuff out there.
Well, anyway, speaking of the job interview thing, in preparation, I had to refurbish my very limited supply of dress clothes. I'm really not a big fan of dressing up.
How can you tell?
Yeah, or the exhausting work that comes with it. I just usually send my stuff to the dry cleaner because I just hate ironing so much. Ironing seems like such a waste of time to me. You spend 20 minutes ironing your clothes out, and then the minute you sit down, you're all wrinkled again. It's like sorting your garbage alphabetically and then throwing it out.
And in our house, you also get a covering of some kind of animal hair.
Of course, yeah. My father was a huge ironing guy. Every Sunday, he'd be going at it, usually in his tidy whities and dirty t-shirt.
Why? Did he have no clean clothes? They all had to be ironed?
That was his uniform.
Okay.
He starched his shirt so heavily, it was like wearing a paper envelope with sleeves by the time he was done with it. Dad, if it stands up on its own without a hanger, you might be overdoing the starch a little. I'm just saying.
On the upside, I guess, if you dozed off, the collar would keep your head upright, so you could just appear to be meditative.
That's true. Yeah, yeah. Same thing with the pants. He wanted a crease so razor sharp you could use it to cut lemons. Who needs a kitchen knife when you've got well-starched slacks?
I sure could never get them even, like the creases in your pants. And I had trouble getting them in the exact same place.
Yeah.
And I would like stress out about it. Like anybody is gonna run up to me with a measuring tape to verify it. Yep, 3 centimeters off on this side. The wardrobe police are gonna have to flog you again.
Yeah, and it's an exercise in futility. Going to the dry cleaner itself, that's an experience, right? The one I use is run by this Korean family. The dad is the only one that ever rings me up. I think he might be the only one that speaks English. If I give him a shirt that's anything but cotton, he holds it up and says, "Oh, very hard, $4." I'm like, okay, Mr. Sue, you're not going to break the bank. You can have your $4.
And it's always the entire family there. The wife and like 3 teenage daughters scrambling around in the back. One of them is usually eating ramen out of some old Tupperware container from the motherland. There's always some toddler running amok, trying to press sweaty Cheerios into your hand as some kind of offering.
You ever have the dry cleaner give you the wrong clothes? I totally lucked out on this one. One time I paid for 2 shirts and came out with 4. And the crazy thing is they actually were decent and they were my size. So I kept them. But the next time I came in, they had figured out their mistake. The father said, "You get extra shirt." And I knew the jig was up. I just played dumb. I was like, I have a feeling the daughters had to cut off a digit in penance for the disgrace.
Just said, yeah, my wife picked it up. I don't know.
I just acted confused. My mom had this really weird rule about the dry cleaner. She would only thought men's shirts were worth it.
Sure.
Right. One time she figured out where my ex and I had our clothes, picked them up, paid for them, and then complained about the price. $36 for 4 dresses. I was like, we didn't ask you. Oh, never mind.
Yeah, I had a love affair with our dry cleaner because my ex wore nothing but those super heavy Ralph Lauren cotton shirts. You could run to the dryer the minute it shut off and it was already like wrinkled to hell. And then you could literally iron till the cows actually came home and they would still look like a prune.
Yeah.
Those things had to be subjected to the witchcraft of those dry chemicals to be wearable. Besides, I got hours of my day back.
I guess so.
For $1 a shirt. Fucking yes.
Yeah, it's a good value. Yeah. You ever meet a dude that just walks around in uber wrinkled clothes? Like when I worked at the Danish company, these Danish guys would come to the U.S. and it was just like their clothes. They just took them out of the suitcase and put them on. It looked like they had slept in them. It was a 0 attempt at ironing whatsoever, and I mean all of them. Right? It was like the executive living under the overpass look, very chic.
Yeah, that's why they have usually an iron and an iron board in your hotel room. It's fascinating.
They weren't to be bothered with that.
The same look was our old postman. He looked like he just slept in his uniform, perhaps in a lazy boy like Sanford and Son, and then just woke up and rubbed the sleep out of his eyes and went back to work.
Yeah. I used to get dressed in the morning in the dark so I wouldn't wake the kids up. But then one day I got to work and realized I was wearing 1 brown shoe and 1 black shoe. I was so embarrassed. I didn't want to get out from behind my desk all day. Can you hand me that fax, Joanne? Thank you. And grab me some coffee. What? No, nothing's wrong. No. What could be wrong? That was a long day.
Showed up at work one time, and thank God I realized it before anyone else did. I had a long skirt on, but I had it on inside
out.
Yeah. I was like, this looks.
I think we've all been there.
Quietly went to the bathroom and reversed.
Remember, we were talking this morning about old boyfriends and girlfriends and old flames and stuff. I had forgotten about this, but in my college days and early 20s, I never wanted to be tied down. And if I was with a girl that had a boyfriend that I desired, I had this interesting system that always seemed to work. Basically, I would come up with the perfect nickname for him. And if I could get her to say the nickname, I knew I was in.
God.
So here's how it would go. All right, so you be the girlfriend. Go ahead.
We just got back from a ski trip.
With Turtleneck Man? Give me a break. You can't be serious about Turtleneck Man.
Turtleneck Man is a very nice person.
See, there it is. Boom. Sex is inevitable at that point. I just had to work on it a little bit more. Here's another one.
I just got back from Jeff's.
You mean Woody Allen, dude? I bet Woody Allen, dude, is a whirlwind between the sheets.
Woody Allen dude makes a very comfortable living. He runs his own accounting firm.
Notice there was no argument about the sex there.
You are an asshole.
So I can come over then?
Yeah, just for a little while.
See, it works, people. It works. If you get her to say the nickname, it works. Okay, let's talk about our feature interview.
Our feature interview this week is with Bill Keelty of the Long Beach doom metal band Ozorn. We have a cozy talk with Bill about guitars, Irish goodbyes, and shark diving in a cage, as well as the recording of their latest album, Vermilion Haze. So stay tuned for that. All right, let's play a song by Ozorn. This is Slow Mood.
Okay, let's talk about Patreon. The site is patreon.com/Snaggletooth podcast. And for $6.66 a month, you get a satanic ambulance worth of Mark and Stace.
I was thinking maybe this week, maybe we'll film me making flatulas. And if not related to flatulence, they're not as smelly and very delicious.
Because we got an extra order of them.
We did.
Home Chef, who we'll talk about very soon. I had this idea. I'm going to start doing one Thin Lizzy album review every week on Patreon until I get them all done. So from Thin Lizzy all the way up through Thunder and Lightning and maybe even Solo and Soho, I'll get them all done. So more stuff to tune in, and believe me, they don't all get good reviews. So we need your help. We're working really hard to try to make the show better for you. Season 4 is right around the corner, and we've got some absolutely ridiculous ideas for that. So we could use some Patreon.
And we have 2 shows that we're going to be going to in September that are going to be from this show. So make sure you follow us on Instagram. I always usually will remind you when I'm going to live stream, as well as save the live stream if you want to see it later. So you guys can check it out.
Good bands. Okay. All right. So you discovered some interesting jokes about radiation.
And this is a true story. If Grand Central Station was a nuclear power plant, it would be shut down. That's right, it exceeds the recommended daily dose of radiation, yet thousands of people pass through it every fucking day. And no one do I see running around with a Geiger counter, strapping on a hazmat suit. Oh, no, breathe it in. It's the granite that was used to build it that emits alpha particles, gamma rays, radon gas, and quite possibly was the cause for the Incredible Hulk. So you might want to invest in a scuba tank for your next trip, or just have fun and hope for a super cool mutation.
Actually, the granite in the U.S. Capitol building is also radioactive, enough to fail power plant safety standards. This is why once Congress votes and a bill passes, the speaker says, "This motion is granite." Sorry. The Library of Congress is equally likely to increase your cancer chances. Maybe the Library of Chemotherapy would be a better name, you know?
Yeah, I read somewhere that Brazil nuts are something like 1,000 times more radioactive than other foods.
1,000 times?
Still, no need for concern.
Okay.
You know, it makes you wonder why the dental hygienist makes such a big show about putting that giant lead chest protector, you know, in the apron. If you're a woman, they put an apron over your ovaries. And they then proceed to run out 12 times a day, you know, doing the x-rays. Maybe that's how they stay skinny.
I guess.
You know, but perhaps they should start including the chest protector with every bag of nuts. Technically, if you get into it scientifically, all food high in potassium is radioactive.
Wow, I didn't know that. Really.
Bananas, carrots, leafy greens, red meat. Uranium is also found in eggs, milk, and fish. Hell, I ought to have my own mushroom cloud by now.
I guess so, yeah. People get really touchy about this science stuff. I got yelled at when I was hanging out in the server room at work the other day. I mean, where else am I supposed to store my electromagnets?
Oh my God.
Ever wait for your bag to come through the chute at the airport and you see what looks like someone's invention come down the platform. It's like some instrument, looks like a satellite dish with antennas poking out of it, and it's wrapped in a trash bag. It's like, wow, I wonder what that thing does. Hey, where's my duffel bag? God damn it!
You know, funny story on that. My ex-husband for a while worked for it was a toy company.
Mhm.
And he had to fly somewhere to show like another branch of the company this toy prototype. Now, most of these toys were like kits, like to put stuff together or make something.
Okay.
And they flipped out because when he went at the airport, they lost the prototype. But I was like, it's a toy, right? I mean, eventually they did find it, but they
Wow.
proceeded to flip out a toy prototype.
Yeah,
It's not like they lost a stray missile.
So did you ever watch the show River Monsters?
Yeah.
This English guy, I think he's like a Oxford graduate or something. The dude had such a flair for melodramatics. It'd be like, what seems like a mere guppy could possibly drag me to my doom. No, come on, dude. Lighten up a little, right? Anyway, there's one episode. He was determined to catch a fish in the river next to Chernobyl, right?
Why?
Why? He had to go through all these permits and get safety equipment, and he was only allowed to fish for a few minutes at a time because of the radiation. But I couldn't wait to see what he was going to pull out of the water, right? It was eventually he pulls out this big catfish. I was hoping it would have like knobby appendages and breathe
Did?
fire. It looked pretty normal to me. I was really disappointed, you know? I don't know. You know,
Yeah.
thought of 3 heads or something. No,
This is what happens when a man lets his hobby get the best of him.
you know.
You know, that was about as anticlimactic. Remember when Geraldo finds nothing in Al Capone's vault after we all sat on the edge of our seat for 2 hours?
They open up the glove box and they're like, just as we thought. Registrations.
Horrible.
And there was another River Monsters. He was absolutely obsessed with electric eels. He was going to find one, right? He's using helicopters, sonar. He literally, he's in helicopters flying over. Sonar, radar. He's got all this fancy equipment. Finally, a guy calls him and says he found one and was swimming around in a lake of cow shit in India somewhere. Yeah.
Okay.
It was like 2 inches of mud, right? So much for high tech. He had to go pull it out with like a piece of rope, like a noose or something. It was so dumb. Yeah.
What do you do? Put it back?
He cleaned it off with a water bottle, and then he was like, he had on these ridiculous gloves, like he was gonna like rewire your whole house. It was just like, you can see it's shocking right now. Like, change channel. Anyway,
He was the opposite of that Australian guy who never had a safety anything. Steve Irwin.
yeah, he would just jump in the water with the tiger sharks. Yeah.
Or, you know, he's like, these cobras are spitting venom. I'm gonna put on sunglasses. Sunglasses? It's not helping. You know, but this is another weird true story. At this one nuclear power plant, they have a freezer full of seagulls, okay? Because they actually employ a sharpshooter to kill any birds that land. Because if they fly off, they could spread the radiation. However, after killing them, they can't bury them because they would decompose and taint the groundwater for the local
That
town.
makes sense. Yeah.
So frozen they stay. You know, it's a choose your own radiation adventure.
What if they have to keep getting more freezers or larger freezers?
At the article I read, they admitted to already having hundreds of birds in a freezer.
Yeah. Back when I was in my 20s, this guy I worked with, he left our office to go work at the Port of Baltimore, right? And we thought he was crazy. Anyway, it was a good thing he did because he used to come back every once in a while and we'd go out, get some drinks, and he had the best stories, right? One day he was saying there was this large, they pulled this large slab of metal off one of the vessels and had no paperwork at all. So they had to put it aside and they're trying to figure out what the paperwork is. Throughout the day, the dock workers all start getting nauseous, they're getting migraines. By noon, there was a pile of dead birds around this thing.
Just sounds like a start to an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
It turned out it was highly radioactive and it had come from like Chile or Brazil or something, and they hadn't bothered to put any labels or paperwork on it. Yeah. You had some interesting points about gambling.
Yes. Who is most likely betting on ponies or greyhound races in 2024?
They still race greyhounds.
Yeah. And by this, I don't mean the apps. I mean
fake rabbit that they chase.
Or you can bet on fake horses at the gas station
That's
or
right.
liquor store. But what a fun day that must be.
Yeah.
But if you look at the studies, it's more likely if you're there, you're a poor white man. Crazy, huh? Any racetrack is filled with old dudes in polyester pants, hoping this is the day the big hit will come. Any win at all just sucks them back again and again. It's like hitting that dopamine button. I mean, I like it when they prattle on about their system and maybe wearing the same unwashed underwear for luck.
Your system was to pick a losing horse 9 times in a row? Well, yeah, because she came in second on the 10th time. Boom. System.
You know, I love watching others gamble shockingly huge amounts of money. And yet somehow I can still sleep easy when they lose big, knowing it wasn't my money that was tossed out the window.
Yeah, I was at this casino one time, and I'm not a gambler. I had burned like maybe $40 on virtual slots, and we weren't leaving. So I remember I was standing by the ATM. I was thinking, well, should I do like another 20? And then this lady steps in front of me with this big hat on. She puts her card in, and I mean, she pulls out like a 3-inch wad of bills. And I'm like, oh, there's somebody's mortgage, right? So I guess I was like, oh, $20 isn't that bad after all, I guess, you know.
My system was always like if I had a cup that was halfway filled with coins when I started, if I got it to the top, I quit. Done.
Got to be able to walk away. Yeah.
You know, when I used to go to the actual physical track at Pimlico to bet on horses,
It's usually for Preakness, right?
yes,
Right.
yeah, my standard bet was $2 across the board. So that meant show, place, or win, and you could get a return of up to 20 cents on the dollar.
Okay.
I mean, what
Wow.
fun!
Yeah.
The only time I really won big, I was at Preakness, super drunk. And I decided I would look through the program and use a system of horses who were due, you know, like a batter in baseball.
That's not a bad idea,
Yeah.
actually.
So I looked for horses that had won previously but hadn't won recently. So in my black-eyed Susan, which is the drink at Preakness, idle brain, it seemed solid. My ex-husband laughed at me until with booze courage, I decided not only to place this outlandish bet, but make it a boxed exacta. It hit and I won about $300. So the next race, suddenly, he wants me to show him my system.
Oh, suddenly you're Jimmy the Greek.
I was like,
okay.
"Shit, bozo. I was done betting and tempting fate to take back my winnings. Because you see, if I listened to that system, I was no longer due.
Right.
But it does seem odd to me that some people tend to win things, you know, like random things, like bingo, door prizes, drawings, and others don't. You know, I sure have bought my share of raffle tickets from coworkers.
Office Super Bowl polls. I've done it
Oh,
too. Yeah.
You know, the chance of winning even like the centerpiece at the wedding or whatever. But random luck passes over me every time.
Christ, I'm ready to call my boss and quit if I win a second Big Mac at McDonald's. I'm out, bitches.
I think one time in that Monopoly game, I won like a free you remember he had the scratch off? I think I did win a free egg McMuffin. That was about it.
Okay.
Out of all the stuff I collected. You know, my daughter, on the other hand, is one of those winner chicken dinner. No matter what she did. I mean, she was little and sat down at the state fair to play bingo and won a baby doll. Like that quick. It was like
Wow.
secondhand. And they had like a thing at the mall where you could put your wish list in Santa's mailbox and they would select someone at random and, you know, get them things on their list. They picked her.
Wow.
You know, and that had to be a whole mall full of entries.
Yeah.
Or she'd go to a play and her ticket would be called and she won a giraffe as a door prize. Not me. I couldn't win an extra ketchup packet. Nada.
No.
My mom and dad are also winners. They won a radio contest. Remember when you would call up and be like the 10th caller to win tickets, or they won a frying pan, something.
You're not going to take my house away. Oh, we've already told that story. Anyway, go ahead.
But they also won their church lottery twice over the years for a sizable sum.
Yeah.
It's weird how fate chooses random bestows of luck that have zero to do with hard work or talent. It's just pure luck of the draw. I mean, I guess I should continue to carry my rabbit's foot, monkey's paw, 4-leaf clovers, and 30-pound horseshoe to the bingo hall.
Seems logical to me. Yeah.
I guess my only random win that I can think of was at a casino in the Bahamas. It's at a resort called the Atlantis. This is back some years ago. I was actually getting a roll of quarters in the casino to call the kids. There were no cell phones that could operate, between countries. So to talk to him, I had to, take a 10 and get a roll of quarters and go to the payphone. So I'm going back through the casino and I'm walking past the slots and I thought, why not? I threw a quarter in, pressed the lever. All of a sudden, bells, lights went off. Uniformed men came up and kind of surrounded me in a semicircle. I was terrified. I thought I broke something, immediately started apologizing. To the contrary, I had won $1,000 on one quarter. I went back to the room and made it rain on my then husband. We were there on a business award trip with his company, so we were there with some of his coworkers. He immediately pocketed the money and forbid me to tell anyone what had happened. Yep, I never saw it again. The dumb luck of having a hard-headed, thieving husband.
I was at a casino one time in the airport, and this woman won, and it was lights and hoots and hollers, and she was going to make the call. And these coins are pouring out. She got them into 2 cups, and I realized they were all nickels. I'm like,
God.
lady, you won $37.50. Whoopity-doo. Yeah.
Well, they didn't have the coin pouring out when I won. When I won, it hit something special, and they just took me to the thing and gave me my money.
Yeah.
In there, you don't even have to pay tax on it.
Right. Well, now they have those online gambling companies like DraftKings and FanDuel, and the one with JB Smooth dressed as Julius Caesar. I don't even understand the commercials. Whenever they have like all the basketball players and stuff, there's all those in jokes. I guess you got to watch like ESPN 24 hours a day to get them.
Yes.
No thanks. Anyway, I think those companies make more money. They could probably purchase entire Latin American countries with that money if they wanted to. There's so many men doing it. Now, this market, as opposed to the horse racing, this is the young, dumb men, the ones that can't afford the side of guacamole at Chipotle, but they're still active in 14 fantasy baseball leagues. Christ, all I need is a left-handed reliever.
Yeah, it's easy to get sucked up in that fantasy football. I remember I was in a league and it wasn't for big money or anything, but I was away at a wedding, woke up in the middle of the night after the reception, realizing that I needed to change out my player because he was on a bye this week. I was like, oh, I was scrambling to a computer.
The hell with that. All right, let's play a song. This is Ozorn with Your Killer. Okay, let's talk about Home Chef.
We just had our order delivered this week, and they decided to bestow upon us an extra order of flatulas. So we'll have that going for us.
It's nothing like extra flatulence. Yeah.
If you haven't heard us talk about Home Chef in the past, and you probably have, they are our favorite mail order service for really, really yummy meals. They're very inventive. We usually get 3 meals at a time, although we got 4 this time, but that's okay. But you can order more. They have add-ons. They're always trying to get me to add on. Goes well with chocolate lava cake. So you can add that stuff on too. They even have smoothies and stuff. They have everything from you prepare meals to oven ready meals. So you can select some of each. I like to do all the ones I make myself. Let me give you an example of what we picked this week. And every week they'll tell you when the menu goes live and you can go on and select your meal.
Very interested in this. Okay, so what
So this is the one-pan sweet and spicy al pastor pork flatulas with lime cream and cilantro.
Well, we got 2 orders of those.
We did. We got 2 orders of these. The other ones I might use some chorizo.
They randomly give you a bonus order. It's great.
They give you the plated version and then step-by-step pictures, instructions if you get lost. Really easy to follow. This difficulty, it says intermediate. I don't know.
If you're vegan, if you're gluten-free, if you have anything special, you can swap in anything,
Yeah, and they will even tell you if something's keto friendly if you're on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's so customizable. What's this?
This is a Tuscan style trout with rosemary potatoes.
Oh, nice.
So nice and guilt-free.
Yeah.
They give you everything you need in here, from the tomatoes to the garlic. The only thing you have to add is your extra virgin olive oil and salt and pepper to taste, and you are ready. Don't have to worry.
Spike it with red pepper flakes and whatever else if you need to. Yeah.
And a haystack beef burger with dipping sauce and barbecue fries.
I don't know if that's going to top the burger we had today.
Really good.
Yep.
Anyway, so you too can go on and select your meals. Anything over $60 gets FedEx to your home for free. So make your life easy. Don't worry about what's for dinner tonight. You can just show your husband the cards and let him pick what he wants.
That's what we do.
And then get to work with it. And like I said, it's not like halfway through you'll be like, oh no, I need garlic. Everything's in there. And there's no waste, which is another thing I like. It's not like for this particular recipe. I remember one time I had to go out and buy saffron. And I had to go to if you go to the spice aisle, you have to go to customer service to buy saffron because it's so expensive. It's like $64 an ounce. So I'm like, I guess quarter of an ounce. And then what do you do when it's left over?
I'll take a quarter ounce of platinum while I'm at it.
Oh,
The hell.
oh.
All right. It's time for collectorbation. Got a hard boogie and masterpiece this week. J. Giles Band, Bloodshot, 1973. Okay. Cast your mind back. Before the Pixies, before the Cars, or even Aerosmith, the prevailing rock and roll powerhouse to come out of Boston were none other than the six-piece known as the J. Giles Band. Originally called Snoopy and the Sopwith Camels. Why did they change their name? They featured players with nicknames like bassist Danny Dr. Funk Klein and sax player Richard Magic Dick Salwitz. This band was everything but passé. Ask most classic rock fans, and they'll remember them mainly for their 80s disco hits, Centerfold and Freeze Frame, which we've all heard a million times. But this band was kicking ass and taking names over a decade prior to that.
They gigged anywhere and everywhere throughout the early 70s. Their funk-fortified, sex-crazed boogie rock opened for everyone, from War to Black Sabbath to Frank Zappa, steamrolling audiences all across the country. The band's third album, 1973's Bloodshot, gave them their first real shot of mainstream success, reaching number 10 on the Billboard charts. Putting the record on today, it's amazing how vital and fresh the mix still sounds. It's dialed up by well-known producer Bill Shimmick, known for James Gang, B.B. King. This music to get a party going. Just 9 songs over 36 minutes, stacked with greasy R&B riffs, funk-crazed organ, and unhinged blues harp eruptions from Salwitz.
Okay.
Let's play a song. This is Ain't Nothing But a Party.
It's not an unusual formula for a band of this era. Hints of doo-wop, flirtations with rockabilly, a little cowbell here and there, fat, hairy grooves courtesy of drummer Stephen Joe Blad and Dr. Funk himself on bass. The first song is As Good a Place to Any, the one we just played for you, aptly titled Ain't Nothing But a Party. It's a Motown-informed blast of boogie with an ironclad chorus and a guitar, organ, and harmonica solo all shoved in all over the place. Why aren't there more songs nowadays that promise to do the boogaloo? I want to bring that back. Anyway, Back to Getcha ticks along on a nasty blues riff. Vocalist Peter Wolf offering, "Looked so good when I first met ya. Told ya I'd be back to get ya." Plus, it's the only song I've ever heard with the phrase, "Scramble my eggs, honey." I don't think we're making breakfast sandwiches here, people. There is no way AI could ever attempt to create a sound like this. It's so analog, bouncing along on hand claps and coked up energy.
You can tell the band is having a ball laying these songs down. Best evidenced by the hilarious off-key horns in Don't Try to Hide It. I guess if I had to pick a favorite, I'd go with the faux reggae closer, Give It To Me, if only for the jacked up bass line, wild organ stabs, hooting and hollering backing vocals, and Blad's flashy stick work. I strongly encourage any fan of stuff like Funkadelic or Band of Gypsies to take a stroll through the J. Giles' wildly entertaining 70s back catalog. Also, must mention the live album that came after this, Full House.
Oh, wow, yeah.
It's one of the wildest live albums I have ever heard.
It's nearly a riot. It's crazy.
It's like they're gonna boogie till the roof caves in.
Yeah, MC5 my ass. You gotta hear it. Yeah.
All right, let's play a song. This is Back to Getcha.
Scramble my eggs, honey.
You look so good when I first met you. I told you then I'll be back to get you.
Okay, I want to introduce the interview.
This is our long-awaited interview with Bill from Old Zorn. As you'll hear, they captured our attention at the Maryland Doomfest. One of the few bands, and believe me, there was a lot of good bands there. This was one of the great ones.
Yep.
So if you have yet to check them out, a good gateway drug are their videos on YouTube, which are really good. And then maybe get over to the album on Spotify. I think you'll find, like we did, we have a winner.
Yeah. So take it away.
So guess how many bands really wowed us at Maryland Doomfest?
How many of them wowed you?
Yes.
Yeah. Out of
man.
like 30.
Like a legitimate answer, probably 5?
3.
Yeah,
3.
30.
Okay.
Yeah. You were in,
Vermouth and whiskey, we already knew. You guys and
well, Sirathon Gall.
yeah, well, Sirath and Gall was good,
Obviously.
but we already knew that.
Yeah.
So maybe 4.
Yeah.
And she was like
And,
4s.
Yeah, it seemed. Oh, yeah, they were great. Yeah, yeah. It seemed like I used to go to that years ago, and it seemed like I liked a lot more of the bands like maybe 10 years ago. I don't know. Now there's not as many good bands as there used
When we
to
got
be.
asked to do it, that was kind of when we got asked to do it, I kind of did a deep search of myself, started looking at the old flyers, and it seemed like they did have some some more notable acts, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, but
Well, being from Maryland, like it seemed to me like I don't know, in the early 2000s, there were a lot more bands that were offshoots from the original Pentagram.
oh,
You know,
right.
like it might have been like, or like the guy from Iron Man or whatever. And it seems like as that dissipated, the bands got shittier.
It's probably a money thing, man, to be honest with you. I was looking at some of those bills from before, and I mean, they were pretty stacked. I was like, going, holy shit, man, this guy must have been really, the promoter, JB, must have been pumping out a lot of money to make that happen.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah,
So-
could have been that.
Maryland Death Fest is a different animal.
You got people flying in from Europe
Yeah.
for that, but there's a lot more.
oh
money.
yeah, no. Well, what's funny is when we first started kind of promoting that we were playing the Maryland Doom Fest, a lot of people had mistaken for the Death Fest. They were just like, holy shit, you guys playing the Death Fest? That's amazing. So yeah,
that's a higher
sooner
profile.
or later.
Yeah, so
I was exhausted after that one. I had to take ibuprofen. It was so much standing, so much walking. We had
It's like a hot day for sure.
It was hot, and then we have a cooler stuffed up in our trunk because it's like $17 for a beer. So in between breaks, we had to walk all the way around the block and up the ramp. I was like,
Oh man, yeah. It's no less brutal out here when they have outdoor festivals here, and like they just had one called the No Values Fest.
Oh, I know that one. That's the punk rock Coachella thing, right?
Yeah, it's put on by Golden Voice, and they had it out in Pomona, which is probably, I mean, Pomona's hot and nasty, just like Maryland. Like, and and I know that it was all out on the asphalt, and I had friends that were like in parking was just a nightmare, and they, they're walking in like a mile, in the Pomona heat, and it was a hot one. I remember I didn't go to it, but I had a lot of friends that were just like, dude, you didn't miss anything. It was so hot and miserable.
Yeah, I haven't been out to Long Beach for about 10 years. I used to have to go there pretty regularly because I'm in logistics, and of course it's the biggest port in the
Oh,
United
right.
States.
Okay.
Yeah. Just
Yeah,
miles
we're right by.
apart.
Yeah, I'm right. I'm in Belmont Shore, so pretty close to the port.
Yeah. I remember I went to a like a seminar, and it was like the guy that ran the port, and he was talking about they were taking his land away, and they wanted more production, and they wanted everything to be green, and I just thought, I'm so glad I don't have your job.
Yeah, no, oh god, out there, I can
And it was
imagine.
union on top of that. I was just like, okay, yeah, that's a stressful job. Yeah,
Yeah,
So
that port's
have you-
old.
yeah, totally. Yeah.
Have you always been in Long Beach?
No, I grew up inland from Long Beach, in an area like called Riverside and Moreno Valley,
Okay.
which is basically it's about 20 minutes from Palm Springs, and so close to the desert. Basically, I grew up in the desert for the most part.
Okay. Yeah.
Close to Caius and all the desert.
Yeah,
rock.
all that stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when did you first kind of get into the music industry, and what were your first bands like?
So yeah, I mean, I started really playing in bands in like 97, 98. And when I first started playing, So I was early on, I was into hardcore. So a lot of East Coast hardcore, kind of started off like, with Minor Threat and all the DC bands, never so much. I mean, we had our bands out here on the West Coast, but they were a little more punk. I mean, not as hardcore as the East Coast bands, especially the New York bands. So I kind of cut my teeth on that. And that's kind of what probably really got me into wanting to play. Just because I liked the angst of it all. And we had a video in Riverside called Spanky's Cafe, which would host bands like Agnostic Front and Uniform Choice and all these other bands from the West Coast that would come and play. So I kind of got into that. Didn't stick with the straight edge stuff for very long because I just found a lot of it to be kind of boring after a while. I liked more of the original bands that came out of that scene. And then and then just when I started playing guitar, I was just kind of writing a lot of just punk and hardcore. And so that was like in the early 90s maybe. And then and then I first got my first band in like 97, 98. And at the time, like bands like got really kind of heavy into the emo scene too, like in the mid 90s. Especially in San Diego. San Diego had a really thriving, kind of hardcore but emo crossover bands. You have bands like Rocket from the Crypt and
I was gonna say,
Tanner, and a lot of like really cool, like artsy kind of emo bands that came out of that area. So I really got into that. And the bands like Jimmy Eat World and stuff like really started coming out around that time. At the drive-in, stuff like that, really, and so like my first 10 years or so playing in bands, it was mainly just kind of emo hardcore, with kind of punk. Never, and to be honest with you, not really into a lot of the heavy metal bands. Nothing, a lot of people think that, oh wow, especially if they listen to like the earlier Ozorn stuff, a lot of people just assume that I was like super into just really gnarly metal and stuff, and I really wasn't. Started kind of listening to, but what got me more into what Ozorn does now is more the desert rock scene. So bands like Caius and
well, late 90s, that was like Songs for the Deaf and all. So that was really starting to hit around then.
Songs for the Deaf would have been like I think early 2000s, but
early
Caius, that would have been like God, what was the big guy? Like, it escapes me.
Blues for the Red Sun was what? That was like 92, 93, right? So.
Yeah. So I went to one of those generator parties that they had. So I'm a lifelong skateboarder as well, and so I used to skate the Nude Bowl out in Palm Springs, and and then we got invited to do a party out in the middle of the desert. It was a generator party, and it was Caius. And so, and I remember sitting there and watching that and just going, oh wow, this is. It did have a big influence on me as far as sound is concerned, and then I was in bands for quite a while. And then around 2006, 2005, 2006, I started a band called Who Rides the Tiger, which started kind of incorporating more of that just kind of brutal, heavier tone. I think we were tuned to like C sharp at the time, more of the kind of drop tuning and started, but still kind of with elements of hardcore and pretty bashy and just really rock. You might want to check that out. That was our that's cool. But Who Rides the Tiger, and then we did that for a while. But man, I mean, through that, you asked about the music scene. Gosh, like through most of the early 2000s, I mean, it was impossible to be in a band, like to try to even get signed, because it was just it was always just bad timing for every band that I was ever in. And even with Ozorn, it's just never been a good time. To try to get a label to sign you, and especially through the first, when Napster came out and labels just didn't know what to do with digital streaming, because labels were just, I always tell the story because I grew up in Riverside, and Alien Ant Farm is from Riverside, and those were some of my best friends for many years. The guitar player Terry, the original guitar player. And not that I'm a big Alien Ant Farm fan, I'm just trying to make a point, but they were, they were signed in like 2001, 2002, and they were the last band, but one of the last kind of new metal bands or any band at all that have even got any kind of like deal, like real deal, real tour, real anything. And then it just dried up, because Napster started happening and then digital streaming started coming out and people started ripping music and just, labels just lost tons of money,
And then the collapse of MTV. Well, not a collapse, but they stopped playing music on MTV. So
yeah, that as well. I mean, just through that entire time period, it was just to be in a band was just rough. It was just rough, and then, if you weren't like just a trophy band or just a sure thing for, especially like a major label to sign you, it was near impossible. And then, you kind of had to cater to what they wanted and producers and then even indie labels too. They were just they were trying to figure out what to do too. It's like, oh my God, our vinyl sales and CD sales have completely dropped off the face of the earth. And so all these labels are just scrambling to figure it out. And then for a minute there, I think like in maybe 2015, 2016, they started to kind of bounce back a little bit, but then Spotify kind of took over, and now Spotify is just kind of killing
everything. I know.
Oh my God. It's been it's almost heartbreaking, to be honest with you. I mean, like you literally have to just kind of, as a band, it is a glorified hobby these days, unless you're signed to a big label and they're getting tour support, but
which is such a small amount. Yeah. I was talking to a friend of mine about the other day and he was like, why are all these bands playing like their signature album, from front to back? There's a lot more of that now? Like even the big bands are doing it, they're playing their big album. And I'm like, tell it to Spotify. I mean, Spotify took all the money. So they got to do whatever they can to make any money touring. It's the only way.
Yeah, it was weird. We like will go to these tiny little dive bar venues, and where they've just moved the pool tables and they're playing under the Tiffany's,
Yeah.
And then I really wanted to see this band Knock Loose, so we went to this big arena.
Knock Loose, I've heard of them.
Yeah, yeah.
So I felt like a fish out of water because I had like an assigned seat and we had to climb up. And then Knock Loose guy was telling everybody to headbang. I'm like, where? Nobody in
I'm
this
like,
section standing.
like the guy next to me is eating a meatball sub. Is he supposed to headbang?
Yeah.
Just to the small venue. And you know what? I will admit, when Slipknot came on, 3 songs in, I was like, we're out of here. That's it.
It was really weird. The last time I was in that building, I took my daughter to see Barney. That's how long ago that was.
Oh, wow.
So
what city is that in? Where you
in
guys
Baltimore.
are in Frederick, or where are you guys at?
No, we're based out of Baltimore right now. Yeah.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah.
So just the combination of feeling like you're at like a football game / concert, it's just weird because I'm used to the intimate bars and the festivals and stuff,
Yeah, no doubt.
It's not the same.
It couldn't be where you wanted to be. I really wanted to get into it, but I was going to knock into the woman next to it.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah. I mean, it's good for them that they were able to sell out like a 15,000 seat arena, but at the same time, most of the bands that we're into are not at that level at this point,
Right. Sure.
So, yeah.
Sure.
So, were you kind of self-taught or did you have formal lessons as far as guitar goes?
Yeah, no, I was always self-taught. I just kind of, we all, y'all learn how to play Crazy Train, you know what I mean? Like, a little, but I would kind of hack my way through. I don't think I can't play a cover song, not one cover song all the way through. I can play bits and pieces, but I pretty much started writing songs from the very get-go. I wouldn't consider myself the greatest guitar player. I use the guitar just to kind of write for the most part. I have my style, of course, but I think I developed my style through just writing from the beginning. And that's kind of what I always tell anybody that, is learning how to play guitar or wants to be a songwriter. So, well, just start writing your own, even if it sucks, just start kind of piecing together your own shitty song, right out of the gate, and
How many guitars do you have?
Not that many, probably 7. I guess that would be a lot to a normal person, but I only really use, as a matter of fact, I was just looking at selling a couple because I do have I've got a few guitars that I just don't use that have sat there. A lot of my guitars are modified pretty hard too, because you probably noticed we were at the show, we were a 3-piece, but we're normally a 4-piece. So our other guitar player couldn't make it. So we had to kind of switch back to the way we used to play. So we didn't used to have a bass player. So if you looked at my guitar, you'd notice that there's a bass pickup in the neck position.
Okay.
And so, and I use really, really heavy strings. Almost the bottom string on my guitar is basically the gauge of a bass string. And so, and if you looked at my guitar, you'd see two chords coming out of it as well. So one chord is for the bass pickup in the neck, and then the other chord is for the standard guitar humbucker at the rear.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So and then the bass pickup goes through an octave pedal, which drops the octave, drops down to a bass octave, and then I run it through a bass rig. And then the back pickup runs through my full stack. And so it's basically, it's basically it's like a bass and a guitar at the same time. So
yeah.
So we ran like that for years. And then with this last record, we incorporated a bass player and a lead guitar player. So, but he couldn't make it, so we had to switch back over for this show, for the Maryland show.
Well, at least you have that to fall back on,
Yeah,
Maybe
no,
one of
exactly.
those, was it Jeff Metz has that one?
Hey, Jeff Metz,
It's two.
He's got a double neck.
It's a double neck, and he
Oh,
can go
right,
back
right,
and
yeah.
forth. I was like, wow, how do you do that?
Bass and guitar in one instrument. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got a chance to kind of circle back and actually listen to Your Killer after we saw you.
Mhm.
Great album.
Oh, thank you.
Really heavy. It kind of had to suck to get a record out in 2020. With all the pandemic and all that shit going on, and kind of being a little more straitjacketed, because I think, and it did get a lot of critical acclaim, very well deserved.
Yeah.
I hope you still play a lot of that stuff because it's great.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, most of when we played Maryland Death Fest, I think we only played 3 of the new stuff, the songs off the new record. Everything else was, we mixed it up. We played a couple off the very first record, the self-titled, and then Your Killer, we played a few, and then just a few off the new album. But just because that 3-piece setup I was talking about is a little more geared towards those first couple of records. They were written that way, so it was a lot easier for me to go in, where we didn't need a second guitar player to kind of provide all the accents and different guitar harmonies. So, but that album was released the week that Los Angeles County shut down. So we had a record release show all set up, and we had so we were signed to Seeing Red Records at that time, out of Cincinnati, and like those guys were flying in, and we had a booking agent lined up. Everything was like sweet. Album's going to be released. We were going to go, tour in support of that record, and then everything just dropped out. And then and we tried to keep it together for as long as we could, but my one guitar player got back on drugs, and then he just disappeared. And our drummer at the time was this guy Danny, and he couldn't keep his shit together. So I literally, I was without. It was just me. Literally, after about maybe 2 months into the pandemic, Ozarm was pretty much done. And then I found the drummer Derek. You guys met Derek over at the merch table. Yeah. Not knowing what to do, I was just like, screw it, I'll just write the next record, which is Vermilion Haze. And so him and I hit up Derek, who was in another band called Painted Wives, which is a local band here in Huntington Beach, or Costa Mesa, Huntington Beach. And him and I just held up through the pandemic and just cranked out this new album.
It was really,
that album was done. That album was done in 2021. That thing was pretty much in the can, but there was just,
no point in
and everything.
Yeah, if you were, even had a slight problem when the pandemic happened, like whether it was mental illness or addiction, it went boom. It just magnified everything.
Yeah. How did you guys do during that? Were you guys?
I worked for a retinal center, and they shut us down, and I was working for a restaurant. A National Retina Center. I worked there.
Oh, Retina Center. Got it.
And then I also worked night times at a restaurant. So all of a sudden I went to 2 jobs to no job. So It was weird. I re-landscaped the garden. I didn't know what to do with myself. And then eventually the restaurant where I worked said that when we started being able to do carry out, they said, we need you to come back, couple people, and take orders, but we can't pay you. So you just have to work on tips. And I was like, okay. I was so bored, you know. I was like,
Right,
sure.
right.
And it's kind of like an more upscale dining restaurant. Like we do the crab cakes and steaks and
Okay.
oh, it was really, and we started doing cocktails to go and
Oh,
little
God.
like we were selling draft beer and soup
Yeah,
things.
she did great money on carryout because everybody was doing carryout. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, when we were, so one of the venues around here, Alex's Bar, which is kind of like the venue here in Long Beach, if you're a punk rock band or whatever, they're kind of like the whatever. Think of the club in Baltimore, and this is kind of
Yeah.
it, you know. But they, you know, it got desperate for them. Like it was bad, and they started doing drive-through drinks. You know what I mean? You could
Oh, yeah.
order a freaking michelada, and they put it in a styrofoam cup and put the. But there would be there'd be like a little kind of drive-through, going in near the front of the entrance. People would run out. But
Yeah.
like Palm Beach, people would just be on the side of the road, just fucking pounding drinks, and
Yeah.
and then
that's
you get back in line to go get more. I mean, it was crazy. It was a wild time.
Yeah, the darkest it got for us, we went and saw like a Rush tribute band in the heart of the pandemic. And it was like you couldn't leave the table. And I went and
yeah.
tried to hand the bartender a 20, and she looked at me like I was the Antichrist. She's like, no, no, you have to use the app. And so then
Yeah.
we finally got drinks. And I just remember being like, this is what it's come to, like
Oh, God, dude, it was.
we got to
sleep
sit
on
at a fucking table and watch rock and roll for the rest of our lives. I mean, it was
Yeah,
just
no, I
that was a
remember
rough
having to do
night.
that too. Yeah, sitting
Yeah.
at a table. Yeah, and you could, and when they were spaced out, and then like, yeah, I
Right.
went to the show. I went to a show at the same venue I was just talking about, Alex's. And yeah, you walked in. I'm like, is a jazz band gonna come on? Because they had like little round tables. You know what I mean? We all just kind of sat
I
down.
know. I
Couldn't.
know.
Yeah, it was like.
Yeah.
It got
Mark
pretty
and I
wild
had
in
just
LA. A lot of there were a lot of backyard parties and backyard shows and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't really going to a whole lot of those, but I got I got a friend who's a kind of a renegade photographer, and he was going to all those shows, and it was pretty wild. Like he's posting photos, and these backyard parties, they just be packed, and people just all over each other, right in the middle of the pandemic too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how Suicidal Tendencies was formed. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, out here, yeah, for sure.
I know. But now we're back to that little show we were talking about. We went to at this dive bar. This fan was like doing these helicopter dancing. He took out this whole band's merch table. I was
Oh
like,
man,
Oh, that was rough.
God.
We're like all went to help. Yeah.
man.
Yeah. You don't want to be that guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
crazy.
Anyway.
So where did you come up with the idea of that great shark? He loves sharks.
Yeah. For the artwork.
Oh, but I took that photo.
Oh, wow.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
so
very Long Beach. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, no, do you know the name Dean Carr? He's a pretty big video director. He was back in the day, anyways. But he did like a lot of the earlier Marilyn Manson videos. I think he did Beautiful People, but he did like
Okay.
Deftones, Shove It, and like he just famous video director. But he's from Los Angeles, and I'm not trying to drop names. It's just setting up the story. So
Right.
but he used to host a shark diving trip down in Isla de Guadalupe, which is an island off the coast of Baja, Mexico. It's about 200 miles off of the coast, and
that's where they all are, right?
That's where they all are.
That's the great white capital of the world.
Exactly.
Right?
So we would go there. Yeah. So he would charter every year, and it was 20 years in a row. That we did this. I didn't do it for 20 years, but he did. I did, I guess four times I went out on that. But it's this really cool kind of charter dive boat. We'd go down to San Diego, and they'd shuttle us down to Ensenada, Mexico, and then we'd jump on this dive boat and go off to sea. But it was a super great time. Chuck Billy from Testament actually was on the last one I went. So
cool.
Super fun. So we would go cage diving, do 30-meter dives. And so I took that photo from the cage looking up as it was going in to bite on a piece of, tuna.
Wow.
But I've had them bounce into cages, and it's pretty
Nice.
wild thing.
Are you
Good fun. But
absolutely
I've done, yeah, we
terrified?
did that. I did that for quite a few years. Um, but yeah, that's I'm not that I'm shark crazy. But it was just a really great time to go down there. The boat was catered. You had a chef on board, and it cost a lot of money to go on it, but super comfortable. You got your own little cabin, and every morning you get up and you just, they drop 2 tanks off the back. And then you had handlers that were chumming the water. And so but I mean, once you get down there, you got, anywhere from 14 to 18 foot, great whites, floating by, I've had them come up with a cage, mouth agape, just,
Oh my God.
Wow.
It's pretty wild time.
That's cool.
Are you terrified, or is it just like a little adrenaline rush, or just are
It's like a lot of people, and I've brought people on the trip, that were, I remember my first time going down too. Yeah, I mean, like, holy shit, man, like this is bananas, like, you see a great white shark, up close, it's something else, you'll never forget it, and I've brought friends down on the trip too that are, just you leave just going, wow. That was something, like, but unfortunately though, so the state of Mexico closed it down. So, they felt that it was messing with the habitat down there, and they just shut it down. So no more dives out there. Researchers can go down there, but that's about it.
Wow.
That's very cool.
So very different though from Vermilion Hayes's artwork, although I love it. It's very trippy. I love it. Where did you come? Vermilion is not a very common term, even though it is also Vermilion whiskey. But it's such a wild, it's a great word to say red, and then I like kind of the couple and the eyes on the head. Where did that whole thing come from?
Well, my buddy Chris Friedman put that all together, and honestly, it's kind of a blend of digital and hand drawn and AI. It is, there's kind of a blend in there, where he was able to kind of whip out all these different versions of it. So if you look at kind of a lot of the artwork that we were posting during the setup of this record, a lot of it is very kind of similar looking.
Yeah.
So he was able to actually kind of take the album artwork and then do a bunch of different spinoffs, which a lot of people are, against, because again, there is an AI aspect to it. But he's an amazing artist and a layout. So he just kind of incorporated some AI in there. And, but most of it was hand drawn and then digital incorporated. So it was a literally wacky blend, but yeah, we call it, and honestly, and there's really no big deep meaning behind it. I just saw the red on the artwork. I saw it's very vermilion, and vermilion is basically, vermilion's like it's kind of a toxic paint that they actually used to, back in the day, back during back in ancient times. Vermilion was a color that they would use to paint jars and whatnot, but it was also a toxic material. And then it's also used in Hindu, you'll see like, people from the, Indians, with a red tint in their hair, you know what I mean? Or the red dot, that's all vermilion. Right. And so there's a sense of purity behind the meaning as well. So it's not a crazy deep meaning, but to me, it's more like a haze of purity, and just kind of like it kind of means life as well, and being pure and being a good person, and being, it also symbolizes being a virgin, or available, for a relationship in Hindu. So it has a bunch of different meanings.
Yeah, my
but
daughter.
The face and the thing, and on the you'll see people are kind of marching towards the face, and and the red coming out. And it's just kind of like it's just people moving towards more of kind of purity, in a futuristic kind of way.
Yeah, I love that. My daughter-in-law is from Nepal, so when they got
Okay.
married, we did a Nepalese ceremony and we did a
Oh,
traditional.
nice.
Yeah.
The red wedding dress was trumps any white thing ever. I was like, why do
Yeah.
we wear white?
Yeah.
It was really neat. I always with the way you title songs, like I love From Your Killer Ribeyes is one of my favorite one on there. It's such a banger. But I'm like trying to figure out why is it called Ribeyes? Is it like a working title or?
That was a working title, actually, but a play on words. So it's eyes, rib eyes. You know what I mean? Like, obviously ribeye steak. But I try to do play on words. I will use a lot of working titles. Sometimes the title will have nothing to do with what's going on in the song. So
Yeah, I know. I was intrigued.
it's not out of laziness, because I do put a lot of thought in my lyrics, but sometimes it's just like that's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
Or casket. I couldn't quite figure that one out either.
Yeah.
I love a song. I was just like, why is it casket?
Yeah, well, casket is just about death and ruining your life, and building your own casket, and just.
Yeah.
Probably a thing a lot of us
For the
do.
rabbit book.
Oh yeah. So of course.
Well, it just means I'll build my own casket. Don't try to ruin my life. You know what I mean? You're trying to ruin my life for whoever, you know what I mean? But I'm ruining my own life. So, I don't need your help, basically. That's what
I
it
can
means.
do it on my own, fine.
Yeah, I don't need your help. I'll build my own casket. Thank you. That's what that basically means.
That's
I
good,
like
yeah.
that. Well, going back to why you named it Old Zorn, which I love. I think I read Watership Down like 4 times in my lifetime.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Is it didn't stick until I kind of started researching. Like I was like, oh yeah. So I kind of like it because it's like most people I don't think are gonna realize it. But I guess you've read it and I liked it that it's like destruction, doom, everything's over.
Yeah, Ozorn just means, it just means like, hey, the shit's hitting the fan. The developers are coming in to ruin the land that they all were living in, you read the book, so so yeah, and that word just, Ozorn just always kind of stuck, in the way it was. And it just basically just means the shit's hitting the fan, like pack up, let's get out of here, yeah. And in German, yeah, it means the wrath, for the most part, but the same thing. Yeah. The destruction of the world, the apocalypse. It's, God is putting his fist down,
What's your German word for annihilation? You remember that?
Vernichtung.
Yeah.
I like that word. Yeah.
He was a German.
I was a German major in school. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So did you catch that on the word, or?
Yeah, I did. But I didn't know the book. She knew the book. I
got it.
I thought it was a German thing when I first saw it, but whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody always wants to assign a million meanings to that book, but I liked it because the author was fine. Like, it's a book about rabbits. To stop,
No. And that's, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's
people,
everything gets analyzed to death.
to do that to
Yeah.
like C.S. Lewis. They want it to be Christian. I don't really. It's witches and evilness.
Yeah.
It's really just a story. Yeah, it's just a story about kind of, tribes of rabbits and, a developer coming in to till the land, you know what I mean? They're just getting run out, you know what I mean? Just like anywhere. I mean, out here in SoCal, you know what I mean? The developer comes in, you'll see where I grew up, as well, you know what I mean? I grew up in Marina Valley, which was a bedroom community kind of outside, like I said, kind of near the desert, and I remember and they were just building homes. So, when I first moved there was 12,000 people that lived there. And within 10 years, there was 150,000. So they just came in and developed the land. But whenever a new project would come in and a new tract of homes would be put in, you would just see the exodus of animals, and you just constantly saw rabbits, you constantly saw snakes, you constantly saw field mice, you constantly, you know what I mean? Just, they'd be in your house, you know what I mean? Because they didn't know where to go, and so, and that brought when we named the band Ozorn, it kind of brought me back to that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of very similar. You know what I mean? If I really kind of just pictured at it, you know what I mean? One tribe getting kind of run out of their own territory and having to go incorporate them, into a different area and the new area going, no, you can't be here. So yeah.
Yeah, I went through this phase where I was down this rabbit hole of
Literally, huh? Very
in
good.
India, same thing, but they're up against the jungle. So you're getting cheetahs in people's like swimming pools and in
Right.
schools, and they're like they're just going after everybody, and that's a major problem.
Yeah, obviously cheetahs.
Like this one, it was footage inside a public school, and it's a cheetah walking down the hall, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
That's gonna fuck up somebody's day right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt.
But that's what happens when we're taking up all the land and the animals have nowhere to go, like you were saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a shed out back, and this rabbit loves to dig under it and have its babies. Not good with him. Talk about your killer. And when baby rabbits, when he would get them, they scream, and I'd be running around the middle of the night on the front lawn going,
Why do you pick the house that has 3 cats? Not good.
luckily for this year, he's getting a little bit older, and he doesn't really rip it up like he used to. It used to be a sea of mouse guts almost every day.
Oh, really?
He would leave us presents every morning.
Right?
It was so fun to find. Yeah. So, yeah.
But now that he's kind of gotten,
A little
13,
more geriatric now.
he's like, you know what? Air condition is good.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, so I had to ask, what is the story behind that crazy exorcist puppet cover?
On what? Oh, on the first album?
Yes.
Okay, so that was actually my buddy Steve Jones. He's or Steve Smith, sorry. He's an artist out of Oakland. He's up in Bellevue, Washington now. He owns a small company called All Hail the Black Market. And he had that was actually just all he did was that was like an ad for like out of a magazine. It was just a mom holding up her kid, I think it was like it might have been like I don't remember what it was actually, what the advertisement was. All he did, he just painted the face up on the kid, and that was it.
I was like, she looks way too joyous for this.
Yeah. All it was is, she's just looking at her child, but all he did was just put the what the hell do they call it in black metal?
Corpse paint.
Corpse paint. Yeah, just put corpse paint on it.
I'll tell you what, I would have never known that, because to me, it reminded me of like the era when you set up your photographer for an album. That's what it looked like to me. I was like, this looks like it has, like, we booked the studio, we had a concept, and we spent 2 hours to get the right angle like that. So it came through great. I was just
no. That was just, all he did was he just tore that thing out of a magazine and put.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, just painted it.
Had me fooled. Yeah.
So what was it like working with Ryan Bosch on this album? Did he kind of bring any nuances to it?
Yeah, I've known Ryan forever. He I pretty much produce everything that I do, and any kind, when I go in the studio. But he had always since the first album, he always wanted to track a record for us, and so working with him was awesome. I literally just flew down with guitars. That was it. And my drummer didn't even bring his drums down. Like we literally just flew from Washington to Tampa and used whatever Ryan had in the studio. I didn't bring amps or anything like that. And so he definitely instrumental in coming up with the actual tones and the overall sound of the record, which I think turned out really, really great. But yeah, I mean, no, for sure. And I've never really worked with him in a producer capacity where it's like he's, where I'm, and I was sending him demos and stuff like that, but he didn't really have a whole lot of input as far as that was. I think he just was like, hey, come in, let's get some great tones and just make this thing sonically sound great. If
you put this up against Your Killer, it's you definitely have more melodic as well as like harder passages together.
It's a hard contrast for sure.
Yeah. Where Your Killer seems a little bit more pedal to the metal, which I like both. Does that like a conscious decision, or did it just kind of organically happen that way?
It organically happened that way. I think I mean, and even from the first record to the second record, that first album's got some gnarly stuff on it, very, very doomy, very, very sludgy. I honestly just kind of just started gravitating away from that overall sound. We're getting ready to track the new album in October. So, and it's going to be even more different from this last Vermilion, because now Vermilion Haze was recorded by the drummer and I. We tracked the whole thing. So I did all the instrumentation on it. I ended up adding bass and adding some more lead guitar work, which were done by our new bass player and our new lead guitar player. But for the most part, the bulk of all the guitar work and everything else was done by me. So, but now we've written this new album, and it where now I have 3 other personalities helping out with the writing and coming up with great harmonies and hooks. So I'm actually really looking forward to it. We got really stoked on this new album, but we do get a little more accessible as so this will be our 4th album, and it's it's going where I want it to be. I don't want to do a bunch of gnarly stuff anymore. I think we kind of, and it's been kind of a gradual climb out of that, which is, in my opinion, I think it's a great way to go. You know what I mean? It's cool to like Vermilion Haze. You can heat, it still sounds like Ozorn. If you were a fan of the first album and you heard the newest album, you go, okay, yeah, that's an Ozorn record, for sure. You hear it in there. It's not like a total departure from like Your Killer. Vermilion's not a total departure from Your Killer. You can hear hints of what's to come off of Your Killer. But we did Your Killer, though, different studio. We were only a 3-piece at the time. I was using different guitar rigs, different drummer. And so, it's got a harsher, bashier sound for sure.
Yeah, the other drummer was a more of that trampled under hoof style.
High on fire.
Yeah, like your drummer now has more of that Hawkwind style. It's a little more psychedelic. I like it. Yeah,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, Danny was the drummer from before, and Danny was in a band called Job for a Cowboy. He was also the drummer in a band called Intronaut.
I know them. Okay, Intronaut.
Yeah. So he was their drummer for many, many years. He played with Godflesh for a little while. So a phenomenal drummer. But just different from our new drummer.
Yeah, I like how precise he is. And some people make bass face. He has the best drum face that I've ever seen.
Who, our new drummer?
Yeah.
Derek,
he really does. He gets
Derek's a fantastic drummer.
Oh my God. And you can see like the concentration and he gets this face, and he's just so, when he wallops it, it is just like bam, it's packs such a punch. I love it.
Yeah, for sure.
When you came out to Maryland, like how'd it go? Like, was there any crazy stories or anything for coming?
No, not really. I mean, we flew into Baltimore, and then we went down to DC and hung out down there, but it was so hot, man. Plan was to kind of go to DC and hang out, and then we were just gonna go to the National Mall, maybe the Smithsonian, and hang out, but we didn't even really get there. We went out the night before. It was my birthday that weekend, so we went out to dinner. We just kept it chill. We kept it chill. We weren't exactly like, we kind of came out on our own dime. We got paid a little bit of money, and off merch sales. But that trip actually ended up just costing us money. So, but it was fun. It was fun to go out. That was kind of the whole idea. We kind of knew going in, so we're not going to get paid a bunch of money, and obviously it would have been nice to play the bigger stage, but they put us on that back room, which we were fine with. But yeah, it was a little underwhelming, I think, at the end of the day. But we were gracious, though. I mean, it was definitely fun to get out there and get on the East Coast and play for some people.
Yeah, we went through and like kind of checked out all the bands that were scheduled ahead of time. And you guys like had the furthest drive, I think, or the furthest trip. Everybody,
Yeah,
a lot of the other bands were PA, Ohio, Maryland, you know.
yeah, no, we flew in, and then you
Yeah.
know, and I had to rent gear down in just outside of Baltimore. Yeah, logistically, it was a little wacky, you know, but we made it happen, you know, just kind of
You
hunkered
guys
down.
sounded great. We were impressed. I mean,
Oh.
you know, you had us standing at your merch table waiting with bated breath for you to get back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so some of my favorites were features. It kind of seemed like almost an unrequited love song a little bit. But I love the trippy video.
Oh, yeah.
Did you produce that with all the swirlies and
Yeah, I did that whole thing.
wow.
And I did everything on iPhones.
Oh,
On
wow.
that
That's
one.
awesome.
Really just recorded everything and just dumped it into Premiere Pro and just tweaked on it and tweaked on it until I got kind of where I wanted it to be, you know. Just added just a bunch of crazy effects and twirls and statics, and it took a long time to get it to where I was happy with it. That was, gosh, I don't know how many edits I did on that. Endless edits.
Yeah.
Was that the hardest part? Like that just editing to death?
Yeah, because and I'm very picky, you know, and like angles got to be right, and you know, I try to make sure that everybody is represented well, and you know, I just want it to look interesting, you know. If it doesn't, you know, we're not just gonna throw up a video, but it's just kind of doing a live thing, you know what I mean? I just want it to be, you know, the thing, you know, like the in your face while I'm singing, and you know, and then it just kind of bouncing off, and it took a long time. Let's just say it probably took a year of editing that, you know,
Wow.
working on it for not every day, obviously, but you know, on and off for like a year, just trying to get it where I wanted it and liked it.
I also love Slow Mood. Was that like green screen with all the
Yes.
rocks and the cosmic
Yeah,
stuff?
that was all green screen, and then this guy Tom Flynn, who's a director and editor out in New York. We shot everything in Long Beach. We did all the shooting work and then just sent him all the footage, and he put that all together. I thought it came out really awesome too.
Yeah, it did. Awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Although I still don't know why you want a social life.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't either.
I used to have.
I don't really have one, to be honest with you, but I mean, you know, used to have one.
It's overrated.
Yeah, on and off.
Yeah.
I used to have this dance group that I danced in for years, and this group of women. And afterward, they would all stand in the parking lot and talk for like an hour. And I was always kind of waiting for my out, like, all right, I'm hungry, I gotta go. But somebody else would start talking. I'd be like, oh God.
Well,
please.
yeah, Slow Mood is a song about wanting one or not wanting one. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, you know, it's a song about depression and medication, you know what I mean? And being antisocial and being afraid to go be in, you're not afraid, but just like the anxiety you get, you know, that I used to get, you know, going to shows or just being in a room with people, you know, and wanting to be like the people that were comfortable, you know.
Right.
I was Mr. Irish goodbye guy, you know. I still am kind of, you know what I mean? I'll just duck out, you know. I don't want
we're like
to
that too.
say goodbye to people. I don't want to do any of that. I just want to leave, you know. So it's like you want a social life, but then you get there and you're like, ah, God, get me the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to ask you about Ricochet because I freaking love that guitar tune. Is that just the way you layered it, or how did you get that? It's just
so many layers.
I just want to like wrap myself up in the fuzz. It's so great, you know. I mean,
God, Ricochet, that was a wild song. I mean, that was pretty much we wrote that one in pretty almost all of it in the studio. And again, that was a song that we kind of edited until, you know, I got it to where it was working right. Because it's 4 different pieces sewn together, you know, and having to build transitions so that all the pieces work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because if you take the end of the song, it sounds nothing like the beginning of the song. And take the second part of the song, it sounds nothing like any, you know what I mean? So it's all it's just a patchwork of parts that, you know, are you know, that work well because of the transitioning, you know, a lot of fade outs, me singing over the transitions and, you know, But as far as guitars are concerned, I'm trying to think now. Is there a part of the song that really gets you, or is it just the whole thing?
It's about halfway through.
Just the way the layers continue to build,
yeah,
and just
yeah.
like you start off with just a little bit, and then before you know it, the vocals are layered, the riffs are layered. In fact, I was wondering if it was called Ricochet because of like that kind of bounce through feel.
No, no, I just think that this is the way it crescendos and the way we built it out. You know, I mean, I don't really have a good explanation as to how we did that one. You know what I mean? It was just literally just putting stuff together and it working. You know,
So when you go in the studio, do you just kind of go in with like a bunch of ideas, or do you like have complete songs when you go in, or how do you?
No, I usually have complete songs. We demoed these songs out for this new record, you know, as much as possible. You know what I mean? And we did rough recordings of everything, but we did kind of go in half baked for sure. Ricochet especially was half baked. I probably made 7 trips back to Tampa, you know, to work on stuff. And so, yeah, Ricochet of all the songs, especially, was definitely one of them that we kind of did piece together.
Yeah. Well, that spontaneity is good. You know, you don't want to sound too canned. You know.
Yeah. No, for sure, for sure. Yeah. No, Ricochet is actually just a reference to well, I had a friend that back in the day who had just constantly in trouble with the law, on off drugs, and kind of got to his life finally to where it was he was thriving. And then he was out one day shooting a rifle, and he was out with a buddy, and they were drunk, and he shot the rifle, and the bullet ricocheted off of a boulder and hit our buddy in the leg.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, and you know, it was just a big mess, and it kind of just threw him off course again. But
Wow. Yeah, I'm not good at interpreting what songs are about. I remember like I went and I saw the Melvins one time, and I forget what song it was, but I had this theory about what the song was about, and after the show I went on and started talking to Buzz, and he was like, "That song's about my cat, actually."
oh yeah, no.
And I was like,
sure.
you know what? I'm not even going to try anymore. So, you know, I thought it was about like the Civil War or something, whatever.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. There, yeah, I use a lot of metaphor, and you also notice too, like from record to record, sometimes there's direct meaning. It's like, okay, clearly he's talking about this. You know what I mean? I'm talking about
Right.
this. I mean,
You're
then
convinced, right?
yeah. Then I will use I'll use metaphor, but a lot of the meanings don't come until later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll write and start piecing words together, and it's amazing how sometimes you'll go, huh, wow, that makes sense. That is about that, you know, or
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
you know, and sometimes, yeah, you know, or I'll force meaning onto lyrics, you know. It's whatever. It's a mixed bag sometimes.
I know.
All right, we play a game on the show.
Okay.
So we're going to do 5 random questions with Stace. That's me. So I have
Okay.
100 questions before me. I want you to pick 5 numbers between 1 and 100.
Okay. 6, 21, 71, 9, 8, 98.
9, 8, and 98.
Yes.
1, 2, 3. I think we got extra number 4.
That's right.
All right. Number 6. What would we find in the back of your coat closet?
Come
on. Shoes and more coats.
I'd almost have expected.
Maybe a guitar if I am looking for room, but it's mostly coats and shoes and boots and stuff like that in the coat.
I was one of those kids. I was constantly going into wardrobes, hoping I'd end up in Narnia. I don't know. I really thought that was going to happen for a long time.
Yeah.
21. Name a song that brings back great memories for you.
Probably like Mountain Song by Jane's Addiction. Like that first album, like Nothing Shocking, and it kind of like anything around that time period that kind of brings me back to a good time in my life and fun and really kind of exploring music and being an artist. And
It's funny that you bring that up. Like that CD, it was my freshman year of college. I borrowed that from the guys down the hall, and we had a party or whatever. And second semester came, and I went to give it back, and they had been thrown out. Like, and that was the day that I learned, holy shit, we can flunk out of here. Like maybe I should study a little more, right?
yeah. Oh wow.
So I got
Okay.
to keep the Jane's Addiction CD, but I'll never forget, like, the room was empty. I was like, holy shit.
Oh, that's amazing. Interesting.
Yeah, Mike and Rich partied a little too much, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my Jane's Addiction story.
Interesting. Okay, that's fun.
Yeah.
71. What is your favorite guilty pleasure movie?
Guilty pleasure movie, man. Probably like Caddyshack.
No, it's great. Yeah. Rodney Dangerfield. Yeah.
Yeah, any of that
Ted
stuff.
Knight,
It's
Ted
more
Knight's
involved.
different.
Any kind of Rodney Dangerfield for sure. Like Easy Money, Caddyshack. Because if you watch it now, you're just like, it's very goofy and corny. But when you were younger, it was the greatest.
Oh my
My
god.
favorite Rodney Dangerfield joke is this.
Oh no.
I thought my wife was having an affair. I said, is there somebody else? And she said, there's got to be.
Oh yeah.
He was great. Yeah.
Yeah, Mark can do a couple comedians really good, but I've told him now when he starts to get exasperated, he starts to sound like Jack Nicholson.
I've become
all
Jack
the time.
Nicholson when I get
So-
like really, like we were watching the new Game of Thrones, and I suddenly started, I was like, it doesn't matter what's happening on the battlefield. These two women are going to solve the whole problem. I get it. Never mind the men. And she's like, you're talking like Jack Nicholson again.
That's amazing.
I'm like, I didn't even realize it.
The rambling kind of.
Well, I just get I hate the new, there's this new, the way the new movies are. It's like that, the way they did that Napoleon movie and the,
Oh god, that was a terrible movie, by the way.
well, like, because the impression is that the men were actually goofballs, that, it was really about the strong wives in the background. It's like, oh, come on, the
Yeah.
guy conquered Europe. He almost conquered the world. He couldn't have been a fucking moron. What are you
Yeah, yeah.
doing?
Yeah.
Anyway, don't get me started. So, yeah.
All right. Do you believe in astrology?
I do. Yeah. It's amazing how fitting it is. My wife's constant, she's big into it. And but yeah, I am. I'm not big into it, but I buy into it quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, so do we.
So you had your birthday in June, so
June
right?
21st is my birthday, so I'm Gemini Cancer, like right on the cusp. So, and I lean more, according to my wife, I lean more towards Gemini, but I do have a lot of Cancer traits.
Yeah,
So
both my sons are Leos, but they're like one's in July and the other's in August. So they're like they're really different kids. It's wild. They really show
I think I have
off.
7 Gemini moons.
So
All right, last one was 98. I got to go to the back page. Do you have a favorite catchphrase that you often say?
Let me think about that. Yeah, I do. I'll say the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Kind
like
of a
that.
big one for me.
I like that.
Yeah, I
Juice
work
isn't
with
worth the
patients
squeeze.
all the time, so I'm always saying, "Oh, no worries, even though I'm
No
just
worries. Oh, I
like,
say no worries a lot. I say no worries a lot, but yeah.
Yeah.
I like that the juice isn't.
I
worth
say apparently a lot. Apparently,
Apparently,
they didn't
yeah,
need to be here at all.
Okay, got it.
So new music coming up for you guys. Where is there something you do or real life or fiction or that is your biggest muse?
No, I mean,
Shark diving.
no, not really. I don't know if there's really a muse or anything like that. I just, just a songwriter, and it's just something that's ingrained in me. I think I'll be doing. I mean, I've taken hiatuses, but I always come back, and I feel like it's it's more of a calling than anything. I feel like it's what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have. It's nice to have something like that to fulfill your time and in life.
Yeah, it's like I try to explain like being a creative is like it's almost like a compulsion. Like you have to eat. You have to do this. It's
You have to do it, and sometimes it's heartbreaking. And I think like this band has had a lot of heartbreaking moments, but we kind of keep going forward. I mean, your Killer, that was heartbreaking. The pandemic, and and even with Vermilion Haze, you know what I mean? Like, this album, yeah, got a lot of great reviews and the critics like it and all that. But at the end of the day, it's like, well, what did we really get out of it other than, we obviously got a lot of great fans and people like you guys, and that's awesome, and people have really taken to it. And that is kind of what keeps it going. So I guess, what I mean, if there is a muse, it is really just kind of like, feeding off of the off of people's love for the songs and the music, so it's kind of that keeps it going. But I'll tell you what, like, it certainly isn't money, and it certainly isn't trying to get. It's just gotten so difficult to try to even like now it's like the amount of money that bands have to spend too just to promote their music, and we touched on that earlier, like Spotify, for example, they're just a giant pay to play now. It used to be with Spotify where you had to have a certain number of followers and you had to have a certain number of streams so that you could access their tools, their marketing tools, you know what I mean, within the app. And, and like, yeah, it just, the gatekeepers, they make it so difficult. And so we've actually now just kind of like it's like, fuck that. We're not going to spend a bunch of money running Instagram ads and trying to promote our songs and trying to get more new listeners. We and like a lot of bands have now too, is like we're going back to just kind of Bandcamp, going back to just selling records and kind of building organically. And and then of course, we have our PR company that does work for us. And they're the ones that got into the zines and the reviews and whatnot. And that's awesome. And we'll continue doing that. But as far as like, fuck Spotify, and
I know it's,
we're there, people want to find us, we're there, and our fan base grows and grows. But, at the end of the day, we all just kind of collectively decided as a band, it's like, you know what, fuck it. I want to get back to having fun again and writing albums. The last two albums were stressful. It was stressful, like releasing them. It was stressful getting it out there and keeping your fingers crossed and hoping like, oh my God, I hope when our song gets dumped on Spotify, it's going to get, the algorithm's going to run with it. And we're going to have millions of new streams and fans and all that shit. You know what I mean? And when it doesn't happen, you're just like, God damn, man, all the time and money and effort and waiting around. And, it's like, nah, screw it. We're going to go track the new record we're going to do with 606 Studios out in Los Angeles, which is going to be awesome. That's a lot of fun. We did Your Killer at that studio as well. That's the Foo Fighter studio. That's the one where they did a documentary on the
I saw that, yeah.
Sound City board.
Yeah.
And so that's a lot of fun, and so we're just getting back to having fun and not being so stressed out and placing so much focus on having to promote and do all this. I
try not to look at the numbers. We're all looking at numbers all the time. It's like I try to not.
We don't want to do it anymore. And I'm done. You know what I mean? It's like the amount of, like I said, and as a band, you're like, I need to get more followers. I need to do this. I need to do that to get big. It's like, screw it. I don't want to do it anymore. It's like, I'd rather just put the music out there and let it grow organically and let people find it. Because now you're just
Bandcamp's great. In Bandcamp, you actually can interact with your audience and that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And people are buying the vinyls off of that. Yeah, it's just so much better. Just let Spotify do its thing, let Apple Music do its thing, and people can find us. And And hey, look, if a big Spotify curator throws us on a big playlist, then fantastic, but we're not going to pay money for it.
No.
But I am super excited that new music is coming because I think that's really going to keep the momentum going for you guys.
Definitely.
And I
Yeah.
can't wait for it.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, that's just it too. Like, yeah, you have to keep just kind of, you just got to keep, that's another thing too, is like just the constant posting and constantly having to, create content and all that, and, stay in the algorithm and do all this shit. We don't care anymore. We're just done. It's like, but we also are not going to wait a very long time to release music. It's like, it is a lot easier to release music these days, which is great. So, as soon as you can get into a studio and record it and mix it, then you can release it. So, and as opposed to waiting around for so we'll probably release 3 or 4 singles off this new album, in the next few months, so, but there'll definitely be something by the end of the year, at least a song or a couple of songs.
That's great.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Just keep creating, keep playing out, keep doing what you're doing. It's great.
Yeah. Yep.
Hopefully we'll catch you guys back out this way again.
Give it out to the East Coast again. We'll definitely be there. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to.
This time we'll bring you a crab cake or something.
Yeah. I did have some good crab cakes in Frederick. Actually.
Yeah. Yeah, we like it there. Yeah.
I love that town. It's very quaint.
It
Yeah,
sure
it's
is.
super
It's all that's that DC money is what it is. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, they built this about 10 years ago. They built this extension of the highway so that you could live in Frederick and commute to DC easier. And you
okay.
you just saw it flourish over time. You just saw a lot more shops, record shops, restaurants. It really,
really different.
Frederick is a nice place to live.
Coffee shop that was a coffee shop / bike repair place. I was like, okay.
Yeah. We like it.
It was
there.
called Gravel and Grinds.
Really cool.
Any way to keep the doors open. So.
That's right. That's right.
Falling on deaf ears.
Deaf Ears 1 is Bywater Call's new album, Shepherd. So this week's obsession for me has been a storming 7-piece blues machine offering up to 10 songs packed with funky organ, deaf slide guitar, tinkling piano, and even some swagger-packed horn accompaniment, not to mention a powerhouse vocal performance. Interestingly, this seasoned blues entity comes not from Hotlanta, not from New Orleans, and not from Muscle Shoals, although I would believe any of the above based on the quality. This band is Bywater Call, and they're from the unlikely town of Toronto.
I almost expected them to have a southern.
They're Canadians.
Their latest album, Shepherd, is a collection that boasts stellar musicianship all around. The type of album that Slab, Crows, or Aerosmith fans should lap up enthusiastically.
I want her to do some of that. Yeah, some of that. Steven Tyler. Anyway.
The vocals of frontwoman Megan Parnell range from booming hard strut to goosebump-inducing croon, track after glorious track. Formed back in 2017, apparently this band has done nothing but rack up accolades all over the world. Nominated for Best International Artist for the 2024 British UK Blues Awards, as well as nominations for the Best Blues Artist Awards in Canada, including Entertainer of the Year and Best Female Vocalist in 2023. According to their website, they played no less than 96 shows in 10 countries last year, which likely explains their tight, groovy, shit-hot sound.
If you want the funk, you got it. Start with something like As If, bassist Mike Musil laying down a warm 1972 informed groove, soon embraced by guitarist Dave Barnes' greasy pulses and Chicago-informed horn stabs. Capped off by Parnell's bombastic, emotive vocals and a stunning slide solo from Barnes. I defy you to keep from swishing your hips to that one.
The hard-stomping blues of Holler is another keeper, tension building over the first minute, the band crashing in at about 1 minute 20 seconds to spectacular effect. Parnell delivering the powerhouse chorus, let your home light holler, let your hair hang down, grab me by my collar and leave me by the ground. But the one that really puts the sugar in my shortcake is the swaggering pulse of Sweet Maria. The song has it all. Stuttering moog lines, 6-slide guitar, and a chorus that you'll sing for weeks. The swelling trumpet of Stephen Dial and the tenor sax of Julian Nolly push the big band vibe of this one into the stratosphere.
As luck would have it, a quick Google search reveals that Stace and I will be able to catch these guys live early next month. So we'll be happy to communicate the impact of the show via live stream and more gushing reviews to come. So stay tuned for that. This is a clip from Sweet Maria. Okay, Deaf Ears 2.
This is Soulbound with Obsidian. Obsidian is the fourth full length from long-running German industrial metal band Soulbound. It looks like they were trimmed from a 6 to a 5-piece following 2020's Addicted to Hell album, but trust me, the sound is no less potent. 11 songs, most milling around the 3 to 4 minute range, and they run the gamut from rave-ready disco to pounding new metal adjacent static. All of it the perfect fodder for an ass-shaking, head-banging good time. Guitarist Felix Klemisch, are we sure they're German?
I think so.
Offers a near-endless supply of dramatic, low-tune riff drops, often adorned with ice droplet synth melodies, courtesy of keyboardist Pat Winsler.
Vocalist Johnny Stecker has a knack for weaving hard-screamed anger with pensive, clean introspection, often within the same song. Longtime producer Chris Harms, who's worked with KMFDM, Lord of the Lost, and others, dials up a hard-hitting, uber-modern mix of both the synthetic and the organic as these five proceed to make a proper German spectacle of themselves for 42 minutes. A track like the mid-tempo goth-adjacent Lioness aptly demonstrates the band's more rock-oriented side. Steckler's near-spoken vocal style for the verses is very Rammstein-adjacent, peppered with Klemisch's sly stunt guitar fills. Insane might be the heaviest track on the record, the percussion of drummer Mario Kraus sounding like meteorites slamming against the roof as Stecker delivers the pensive chorus, I feel the value, I burden all the pain, but you are never asking me. I feel insane. Jawohl, Herr Doctor.
Those of us more interested in bottled water and ecstasy will melt for something like Forever in the Dark, an insanely dancing nugget somewhere between New Order and a raucous beer garden. Paralyzed explores a similar territory, an up-tempo, rave-ready nugget with flittering keys and Stecker guiding us. Hey, hey, follow the sign. Hey, hey, follow the line.
It's industrial rock Gemütlichkeit, kiddos, so get on it. We have the ways of finding the good musics. This is Lioness.
Black is the color of all stars. Don't you ever tell the lion I will never sleep. From the heavens to the cradle, drowning oh so deep. Is it always running crazy?
Okay, Deaf Ears 3 is Castle Rats Into the Realm.
To quote one Jinx Dawson of Coven, who answered this when questioned about adding sex appeal as part of her music's package. Life is all about sexuality. None of us would be here without it. I am most comfortable when I am perceived as a sexual being, but I embrace my years of knowledge in a most precious way. A mix of sexuality and knowledge is a powerful combination.
Every once in a while, you just got to take out the trash naked. I mean, come on.
I am going to guess that Riley Pinkerton had a notion of this high-octane formula when creating the medieval fantasy doom band Castle Rat. There have been so many veterans that do that 70s retro sound and do it well already, from Lucifer to the Quill. How could this four-piece out of New York stand out from the crowd? How about sexy gothic costumes, an unruly mane of red hair, early Bowie colorful eye makeup, a gothy backstory, props of the occasional sword, scythe, or goblet, and a sound that seems like it was frozen in the 70s and just now thawed, and the veritable cherry on top of solid musicianship. You get all this and more in their debut, into the realm, with 6 tracks in the 4 to 6 minute range and 3 instrumental palette cleansers that clock in around the 1 minute mark. A standout of these, Resurrector, is simply a bass noodling solo. Because why not?
Very Man-O-War adjacent, yeah. The opening track, Dagger Dragger, bursts onto the scene after a feedback intro into the Sabbath-informed riffing of The Count, a.k.a. Henry Black, the Rat Queen, Pinkerton, the Plague Doctor, Ronnie Lanziotta, plucks out quite a groovy, bluesy bass line. The Rat Queen's alto vocals are echoey and flowy, mostly without emotion until her scream at the end. The Druid, a.k.a. Joshua Sternick, pumps out a rocking beat with a lot of well-timed clanging. A little more than halfway through the track, it stops for a beat and the riff changes tone. At first, I actually thought it was a different song, and the Count and the Queen join up from some admirable guitar harmonies. Red Sands has a different retro rock feel. The Queen croons this time over slow, effervescent guitar plucking with the sound of swirling wind. The whole thing is husky, dreamy, and reverberant, like it was recorded in an abandoned church, and in fact it was. By the time the drums of the Druids start their slow pound, the vocals take on a layered effect that gives a victorious feel. The riffing has a noodly Hendrix-like vibe at the end.
The balladish Cry for Me starts with the Queen. The balladish Cry for Me starts with the Queen's mournful, warbling vocals. All the freaks are out again. I watched you drag them to your den. All the while, a single guitar winds some minor chords. The drums creep in around the halfway mark, building a crescendo before fading again at the close. The Queen may not have the range of Grace Slick, but her style is euphonic and seductively caresses the notes into your ear. Besides, I never saw Slick perform while playing guitar and wearing a chainmail bikini. So there's that.
Let's face it, she's got a better figure than Ozzy or Dio. I mean, come on.
My favorite track must be Fresh Fur. It has the Druid's drum starting wild and slowing to a bump and grind and back again, all with the Plague Doctor's seductive bass line, keeping things dirty. The Queen vocals echo and stack up in a billowy flow. Check out the guitar harmonies of this one's close and try not to bop along.
Pinkerton has been building not only this band's sound, but the whole persona. I found a video from 9 years ago of her covering a Black Sabbath song on YouTube in what might have been the first steps in becoming royalty. It will be interesting to see what they do for a follow-up. I bet some will think of them as a flash in the pan, but I think these guys are sure no one-trick pony. Despite filming quite possibly the worst sword fight ever. What video is that?
Cry for Me.
Check it out.
Yeah.
I think this Rat Queen is one smart cookie. The number of followers and sold-out vinyl alone are evidence of a cult-like following already. So raise a goblet and protect the realm from those who wish to destroy it. Long reign the Queen. This is Feed the Dream. Jokes about radiation and dry cleaning. Good.
Tales from the dry cleaner.
This is where we have ended up. Yes.
What is it about dry cleaners where they seem somehow clairvoyant? My daughter and I walked in there. We wanted to get a dress altered, and we didn't have the dress with us. We just wanted to see if they did alterations.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as the woman walked up to the counter, she said, "Dress alteration?" It was scary. Britt and I were like, how?
All I get is very hard. That's all I hear again. I don't get any psychic vibes.
Everybody out there who still irons, their clothes every day. I haven't picked up an iron myself in years.
No.
And you know what? I've also had the experience of you try to iron something and you don't check the thing and then it melts it. I had that happen with a pair of pants.
Nice.
It melted it. This has been the Snaggletooth Rock and Roll Podcast. Special thanks to Bill from Ozorn for appearing on the show. Snaggletooth theme courtesy of Jens Kemgren of the Firebombs. Deaf Ears theme by Tim Green of the Fucking Champs. Season 3 artwork courtesy of KC Angel. You can find him on Instagram at KC Angel Art. So in addition to checking out Ozorn, also get over to Spotify and Bandcamp and check out By Water Call, Castle Rat, and Soulbound. All content 2024, the Snaggletooth Rock and Roll podcast.
Boxed exacta bitches. It's raining.
This is the Snaggletooth Rock and Roll Podcast.